What's up, guys? It's Steve Braconi with Team Braconi with Alfredo Vastola as always. And today we have a very special guest, Denise Albanese with Interiors by Denise. She does design, and we're so happy to have you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
So it's such an important and intricate part of real estate and our process. It could go either way. We go into some homes where we're like, oh, this needs a lot of help, and other homes are designed amazingly, kind of like how I've seen your work. How did you get into that industry, and was it something you always had interest in, or?
I always had interest in, and I started doing a home for myself. And so I realized, that I loved it so much. So then I went to get my certificate, and then I actually got my first job with Einstein Mumji, which was a high-end furniture store.
That's awesome.
I was their designer, and it just took off from there. It was just, I still have some of the clients that I've had from the beginning, and turned into wonderful friends, and just an amazing career. I love it. I just love it.
We worked out of the same office for a little while, and I know you're in real estate as well, and it kind of goes together. But you've always been such a nice person, even since the first time I met you.
Thank
I
you.
came in, and you just have like a certain glow, but it's one of those positive feelings, and that's part of the reason I had you come in, besides that your work is amazing. Is there a certain type of client that you feel is most beneficial with getting a designer? Is there someone that is the typical market? For example, with us, if someone said, who do you typically work with? We do a lot of condos and townhouses. We do more luxury stuff and some investment stuff. There's certain pockets of the market that we really don't specialize in. Huge commercial stuff, for example,
Yes.
we wouldn't get into. Is there a certain, I guess, demographic of a client that would most benefit from having a designer?
I mean, it's really over the years been kind of the whole range. I mean, we've been, we're able to come in and just do, small touch ups, especially for staging and things like that. Just help even with using their own furniture, and just kind of like, just helping them, bring it to the next level, whether it's just adding different pillows to their current sofa, or getting rid of some clutter and things like that. And then all the way to the other range where we're designing 30,000 square foot homes. So it's sort of, the whole gamut.
So how does that work? And because sometimes you're using most of the elements in their home, and you're just throwing some accents, whether it's pillows, like you mentioned, you're having that conversation up front, and depending on what their budget is, or just
Correct.
because of how much furniture they may have already have.
Yeah, correct. Like when we go in, we want to be sure, obviously that it's their home. So you don't want to kind of come in too strong and say like, this has to go, that has to go.
Yeah.
It's the same with us as an agent.
Yeah.
We don't want to go in and say, oh, this is like, it might be a sentimental couch or something.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
got to be careful.
Like if
I've done it, and that's why I'm not an interior
if
designer.
there's like one table that it's kind of, so it's like, I would say like, tell me a little bit about this table, because like
That's
kind of
good.
before
I might use that approach, because
Yeah.
my approach is not good.
before I say to them, like, we should put this away. Like, I want to know how important it is to them. The whole goal, if in the staging, would be to any potential buyers coming in really needs to be able to see themselves in the space. So we don't want to make it so owner, the way the owner has it so specific, but we want to be able to, lighten it up a little bit, make it a little bit more neutral, understanding that they're still living there.
I mean, from a real estate standpoint, it's a dream if a designer like yourself has been in there, because it's going to fit a certain mold and attract buyers, and the photos come out nice. There's reasons why. Is it during the process? Start from the scratch, if you could, for the audience, as far as if someone were to contact you. How does that first, is there a consultation of some sort, or how does it go until you are, I guess, retained and start doing work? And then I guess there would be some sort of contract where you're retained to do within a budget a certain amount of work or something like that?
Yeah, the first call actually gives us a lot of information. So I kind of ask a lot of questions on that first call before we even go to the house.
Okay.
Then you kind of know their budget, their expectations, their time frame. Like these are all like really.
Do you even get the
things.
size of the project, as far as like the size of the home?
Correct.
Or these are the rooms I'm thinking about design? Okay.
And then sometimes they'll say, I don't want to do every room. So if we were staging, it's really important to make sure that the outside of the home looks as good as the inside of the home. That first impression, the foyer, the kitchen, the master bath, the master bedroom, like those are like our key points. So then we would come to the house. meet with the client, see the home, and kind of then determine from there, like really what needs to be done, what their budget is, and again, their expectations.
And do you then kind of like when we go give a certified market analysis, we do meet with the person. Generally speaking, if it's a condo, we kind of know the numbers, but if it's a single family home, we really want to see it. My protocol on the team is go see the home, try to create a relationship with the client, see what their expectations are, and if you can make some sort of connection, come back, do the numbers, and then set a second appointment to go back. Is it
exactly
similar?
the same thing?
Okay.
Yes,
That's
exactly
interesting.
the same thing. Yeah.
And then when you go back a second time, are you presenting these numbers and this budget to see if you kind of on the same page?
Yes.
And then work would begin thereafter?
Yeah. And that again, that's determined a lot from the first initial consultation.
Right.
Like they'll kind of let you know what they're thinking they're going to spend, and what their expectations are. And then we try to work around that.
How often does their expectations align with what a professional actually sees as most beneficial? Is it pretty in line, or is it?
Sometimes.
It's kind of a hard question, right?
Sometimes.
I guess it would totally depend on the situation.
It all depends. Yeah, it all depends.
Yeah.
Well, I guess a majority of clients end up going over their initial budget because of your recommendations, which are probably obviously necessary.
Yes.
They may have something in mind, and then your obviously professional guidance gives them new direction.
Yeah, I mean, we've had times where we've gone in, we started with a smaller budget and they were planning on selling the house. But as we kept going, they decided, let's do more and we'll keep the house.
Renovate the home.
So,
it's true. She was actually telling me that yesterday.
So it's, you just never know. You just never know.
Then you did too good of a job.
Yeah, then you did.
With real estate, there's certain points of the transaction, specifically for me, contractual negotiations. I feel that I excel with that particular part, so it's one of my favorite aspects. Is there a certain aspect of the design and or staging that you really feel best about, that you feel you're strong in and you enjoy the most?
I actually love using what they have in their house. Like it's sort of kind of like a challenge to me, and people usually have the right components just in the wrong space or not, not accessorized correctly, or like too much of something, like a lot of clutter. So decluttering, lighting is super important. So making sure their lights are proper, their light bulbs, their windows have enough natural light coming in. Sometimes just changing those small things initially make a huge difference.
Yeah, I think people go to Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever, and just lighting is difficult because people don't know what proper voltage to use or color. So that's I can totally imagine that. In
the old days of real estate, when I first started, we would get a big book, and I've talked about this on the podcast, where I'd actually look through like the yellow pages and find a home and tell someone. Now we can bring iPads or laptops and kind of show them pictures. How would you, if you're meeting with someone and you have a vision of, for example, you gave the light fixture or whatever finish that you feel would look good and it's probably their taste, do you use catalogs, or do you use more electronic stuff now, or how would you go over that?
We do. Like years ago, we would drag all the catalogs with us, but now with the laptop and the the little iPads, it's so much easier just to be able to like go on the vendor site and see.
Do you ever bring them to a showroom, or is it more you're ordering things and bring them?
We do both.
Okay.
We do both. We have a lot of vendors that we work with directly, so I can order a lot of the product myself. Having the showroom, so it makes a big difference. Yeah. And, I mean, staging is a whole different story than new design. So, a lot of times with staging, like I said, we're trying to use what they have. And it's even like you have to really be careful, like to transform one room a lot more than the other rooms, because then it just makes the other rooms not look as good. So, if they don't want to
talk a little bit about that though, because I think you're so experienced, and we have enough experience that we kind of understand a little bit to be dangerous as far as the differences between design and staging. But could you elaborate a little bit on if you go in to see a client, where you would feel it's going to be more of a design project versus more of a staging project, and why that would be?
Well, if it's it depends. Again, if they're looking to put the house on the market and they have a short time, time window right there, then we're going to stage, because to start a full design, it takes a while. Like, even to change paint in one room, it sort of opens a can of worms, like after that paint that room is done, then we have to go to the next room, and then it's kind of just like an ongoing.
But the paint
thing.
would be more leaning towards the design, correct, versus a stage.
Some people will say, like, what if I just painted this one room? Wouldn't it look better for staging? And then we're kind of like,
It's that kind of
it's
mix
not
matching.
really. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the time frame is the biggest factor in how we're going to present a full design, or just let's stage what you have. And there's a lot of rental furniture companies out there too. So if the client doesn't have, the actual pieces that we need for the project, then we can bring in some rental pieces and, kind of store their items away.
So it sounds like the staging is more of a Band-Aid.
Correct.
And the design is like a surgery
thing.
Yeah.
It's ends to a mean, if you're trying to sell.
Yeah.
I think it sounds like staging is.
Exactly. If you're trying to sell, I think stage, unless of course, if it's new construction and it's a model, you need to put the furniture in there definitely to make the potential buyers see the potential of the space.
With staging, is there any typical timeline you see? I imagine it totally depends, but I can't imagine most people that are selling a home would stage the entire home, right? There's probably, like you said, specific, maybe kitchen, living room, master, stuff like I'm guessing, because that's where we focus on when we're trying to sell. What would, if someone, you do the consultation, you go out there, you meet with them, what does the turnaround look like? Is it a few weeks?
Yeah. We try to do it as quick as possible. Yeah.
And then you're ready to go.
And then you're done. You're out.
That's awesome.
And then they're ready for, photos and whatnot.
To go back to what we were saying, with the people that you're going to do a consultation when they have this specific furniture, what is that conversation? How do you transition? Because I liked what you had asked, or your initial ask is what does it mean to you? So how does that conversation usually go? Because I think that could be, we run into that. I run into that all the time. It's just for some reason, whether that obviously it's too costly to move around or place somewhere else, or it just means something to them. How does that usually work?
You have to really be careful because, you're walking into someone's home. A lot of times they've been in the home for a long time. So even their little collections, the photographs, like you don't want to make the house seem so sterile. So you don't want to get rid of all that stuff. You still want to be able to let a potential buyer know this has been someone's home. Right. They want to feel, that warm, welcome feeling, but you don't want to have, it too cluttered and too specific.
Right.
If you go into a home and they have like a clown collection or a doll collection,
we had that one.
Like you have to be careful because, they love the collection.
Remember he had some mannequins or something.
You kind of want to.
But they're very sentimental. It was passed down in the family. And
yes.
So we were careful with, and she got it, but she's like, I can get rid of them for their showing, but they're important to me.
Yeah, we can put them in storage and hopefully find a good home for them when you find your next space.
with the design, it seems as though it's similar, and I might be totally wrong. You can correct me, but it seems similar to fashion in the sense that trends change a bit. And it seems as though our area, for whatever reason, is kind of a market leader in the trend, both in the fashion industry, like whether it be jeans or, outfits, or with what people are doing for their kitchens, for example, or something like that. And it kind of spreads throughout the country, but it almost starts around the Manhattan area.
Yes.
How do you keep up with kind of what's upcoming and I noticed recently, for example, some of the kitchens, as I was mentioning before we went live, are going from like a white to a white and partially like a really light, like grainy wood
like a
color.
Neutral wood.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like and that's just all of a sudden
wood.
Started like catching ground, like the white did, from before, from the dark cabinets. What do you do to keep up with that trend? Because obviously you want to be ahead of that, I would think, because you don't want to design someone's and it's dated.
Start seeing it come in. Like I do furniture market, like in High Point twice a year. So they have,
what is that?
It's a furniture show where furniture, accessories, lighting, where all of the manufacturers, they display their new products coming. And so it's really important to attend the shows because then you start to see the new market trends.
Is it like a big trade, like an expo?
It's a huge trade show. I mean, the whole town of High Point is just.
Where is that? Where's High Point?
It's in North Carolina.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's where all the furniture is.
Oh, yeah.
So there's literally hundreds of vendors and like huge buildings. Like I don't think you can see everything in the 5 days that it's open. But there's a lot of networking events and things like that. And you start to see the different colors changing on the upcoming, market
Is it kind of like flipping the page where, like for me, I suddenly went into these newer constructions and everything, like within a few months, it seemed like everything was leaning towards. And you'll see a couple still stragglers that have like the older look, but it's almost like overnight. It seems like is that the same with the design stuff?
Yeah, it starts trickling in like a little bit ahead of time on the furniture side, and you'll start seeing like the handles change from stainless and polished to golds.
I'm seeing that.
Everything is gold now.
Yeah, the gold finish,
which went out years ago. I remember when people were like, oh, I got to remove, I'd be selling these larger homes and I want to remove all of that. What's that going to cost?
Like a brushed gold or like a lighter tone gold. Yeah.
Which I happen to love.
Yeah, it looks nice. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
I guess that's super important to go to that convention, because they're obviously, if they're putting out a design, they're gonna be manufacturing them, and they were gonna want to sell those.
And
so
you can see
that's where it starts.
Pretty much across the board, from the accessory lines to the lighting lines. They'll start bringing in the gold and the furniture, and a little bit more back to, I don't want to say traditional, but they're leaning a little bit towards a little bit more detail, where everything was straight and streamlined and more contemporary. Now that it's going back to a little bit more detail, a little bit more color. The gold is back. So yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
Do you find some of the magazines and design magazines that put same thing in fashion? Sometimes you look at what they're putting out, and it maybe a piece may come out from, because some of these outfits are just so outrageous. Like there's no way someone's wearing that, but it's like a piece of it is what really is going to be pushed out. Are you getting inspiration or seeing things in a lot of magazines, or do you see it's like a little similar to the designs that you would see in clothing that are really, I saw wallpaper on the ceiling as a design. I don't know. I mean,
we've been doing that for a long time. Okay. We've been doing that.
That kind of leads me to the next thing. Do you see a significant difference in a professional like yourself designing something versus someone who kind of has a knack for it? I do. Truthfully, as a professional, if it's professionally designed, and I've seen some of your work, and we'll put it up with the Instagram after. Yeah, I mean it's night and day to me as a professional within real estate that sees a lot of homes, hundreds and hundreds of homes. I can tell if you did something versus if someone attempted to do that on their own. And I couldn't do it at all. So they do a better job than me, but they're not at your level. So what do you think?
I think experience. So I don't know so much about like having, being like so educated and this and that on knowing, but the experience and having an eye, like some of the best designers that I know, they were party planners or they were flower designers. I mean, they just had that creative.
But did they just have it, or is that something that they
had it
nurtured?
And then they went into design, and the experience is what kind of makes them who they are today. I mean, like every project is different, especially with design. We all come across, especially with building and new design, always some hiccups, like you plan everything around one fabric and find that fabric only has 3 yards left. So we have to start, kind of like quickly punt and think of a different idea and just change direction. And I think that's where the experience comes in, being able to kind of just change on a dime and still make it work. And I always like to see that, after it's done, no one's seen like all of those little hiccups along the way, and no one saw all of the work that went into perhaps one sofa.
Well, you've bound it together. I think with your projects, from what I've seen, is it's almost fluidity, where there's no, outlanding. Like sometimes when I see, I don't want to say an amateur, but someone that's trying to do it themselves, it skips a beat. Like you could tell, like, well, this didn't really match that. When you're walking through, there's different looks and it just doesn't. Whereas it feels like it flows more when a professional like yourself were to design a home or stage.
Yeah, you try to plan it so that the rooms all flow. But however, you do have a client who's the homeowner, and they have their own, ideas, and you definitely want to make it's their home. So you want to make sure that it's something that they really love and it has their touches in it.
Now that you mention that, have you ever had a situation where they bring you in as a professional and almost everything you suggest is they know better than you?
Those I never take photos of when they're finished. They never get final photos.
But it's like, why even retain you?
Yeah. Because you know what, they're happy with, so my work is done. I just really want to make them happy. But then, there's something that maybe I didn't want to take a picture. I didn't want that, painting there. And to me, that's all I see. So
But your job, I guess, is to
But
also make them happy.
my
and,
job
yeah.
is to make them happy.
Yeah.
So if they're happy,
Yeah.
I did a great job
Yeah.
and I'm done,
Yeah.
done.
We're in the process of building a home, and my wife feels as like she's very artsy. She's at the elementary school and the middle school. She still has like murals up on the wall. So she grew up, just being very
Mhm.
artistic. So she's into that stuff. And it's funny because I know what I like when I see it. I feel like I have a decent eye for the finish, but I have no idea how to get there.
How to get yeah.
Which
is pretty
just
much
like countertop,
across
like
the
I
board.
could do the simple stuff, but
Yeah.
as you start adding pieces into stuff like that, so she'll run things by me. I'm like, I have no idea. Whatever you think,
The relationship that you have with your client. I mean, for me, I kind of pride myself on that. Like the clients that I've had for, doing multiple homes and this and that, we've become friends. They're almost like family. So if I'm shopping and I see something I know they would love, I'll just buy it and like, look what I bought. And they would go, oh, I love it. Where are we putting that? So
Right.
design is really about also the relationship that you have with the client.
That's great.
It's super important. Super important. I mean, I would say that that's probably the most important step. If I could achieve that with my clients, then I've done a good job.
Do you feel like most of your clients are, I don't want to say it the wrong way, but I would lean towards like a luxurious property, like a more luxury property? Do you feel it's worth retaining a designer if it's not considered like a luxury property, or do you think it's worth staging a property if it's not? Is it worth the expense, I guess is what I'm saying, if it's more of a I don't want to say lower end, but a more affordable price point?
Right. Well, I guess that all depends on I'm going to refer now to the real estate agent. Like how much do you think that that's going to matter in the sale of the home?
I think it matters a lot.
Yeah.
To me. And we've taken over multiple sales offices, and some were as small as 1-bedroom condos, and the developers spend a lot of money, and they do rent the furniture. So it's over the course of years, they're renting this furniture.
Correct.
Probably cheaper to buy it.
Yes.
But they spend a lot of money, not to waste it, but because they feel as though in the end, more buyers will commit to buying these properties and probably pay a little bit more for them, because it helps them envision what the space could be utilized as.
Well, I think if you're doing, let's just say we're doing like a beach cottage, we have a small budget on beach cottage. We may look for some like used furniture, some painted furniture, like things like that, and not put, you're not going to put luxury furniture in something like that, but it's still able to help it sell.
Right.
I think it's still a conversation of what the how much is there available to do the staging or the design.
Right.
You mentioned building. Have you ever been, or maybe if you haven't, desired to do a new development project with designing, the amenity spaces, the hallways, it's just a lobby space?
We haven't done one of those yet. No.
Any interest?
Sure.
Oh.
Bring it on.
You could definitely.
That would sound like a fun project.
Yeah.
Any clients that you found super special, or any funny stories throughout the years that you've dealt with clients? Like there's certain clients I know Alfredo's clients that he remembers, and myself, I remember certain clients, both clients I value everyone, but that were super special to me and that treated me a certain way, and others that, certain funny things that I've mentioned on the podcast before that have happened to me through 21 years of doing this. But anyone that comes to mind as far as...
I have multiple clients that, like I said, we've been with for so long, and then you're doing their house and their Florida house and then their kid's house. And
so you go out of state to do this too. So I'm a little ignorant.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Yes.
Because I always see you around New Jersey, and you're kicking butt here. So you're so you're going to Florida as well.
Yes.
Throughout the United States.
We've done projects in LA.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long are you out?
Vermont.
How long are you out?
Do you go out there for days, or is it weeks?
So the LA project, we had only 3 days to do. It was for a music producer, so we had to do his office within 3 days from store. Some
sounds stressful.
Yeah, it was super stressful. It was, but we did what we had to do.
I mean, that's amazing. I'm sure there's tons of them in LA, and to be, have someone say, hey, come out and do it for me. That's incredible.
Yeah. We had a great relationship. We did all of their studios and offices in New York.
That's awesome.
So it was nice. And then we did a townhouse in Vermont. Again, it had to be finished before ski season. So we went in and and when they walked in, literally the table was set. Everything
That's
was
awesome.
done. Yeah, their napkins.
They didn't
were
have.
out.
Did they have food on the table?
They didn't have food on
Oh,
the table,
jeez.
but everything else was finished. So their towels, everything, it was a turnkey. So when they walked in, and they were so surprised.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Do you have something else?
No, nothing else right now.
I had one more thing. So, how have you? So we always talk about how much our industry's shifted and changed through the years. With real estate, like I said before, we used to receive a book. We would find these properties. I would literally go pick these people up, these people, the buyers up,
Right.
and I would show them homes, and they would really rely on me for pretty much everything. I mean, they weren't aware of new, unless they happened to drive by and see a sign. They didn't know what was available, so they had to rely on me. Then they relied on us for prices and that sort of thing. Nowadays, there's enough information, and some of it's misinformation,
Correct.
with Zillow, and some of it's accurate, some of it's not. It's probably 50-50-ish. But, some clients feel as though they want to do their own research. Some still rely on us. So we've seen a massive shift as far as the service that we provide, and it's kind of a la carte to what that person expects and wants us to do. Do you see the same thing with like Pinterest, for example? There's different sites where people get ideas and stuff like that. Do they bring things to you now? Whereas back in the day, unless they had a catalog, I would imagine there wouldn't be much that they could show you.
Yeah, they'll set up a Pinterest page, and then they'll say, look at my Pinterest. This is what I like. This is kind of.
Do you like that as a professional?
I do, because I want to know what their vision is, and what, because it might not be what I'm seeing in the space when I first walk in. I might be going a totally different direction until they start sending me their ideas. And I always ask for that. Like, what do you envision? What do you see? And then I try to guide them, but ultimately it's their space, and I want it to be something they love coming home to.
Yeah, I think you can get some color schematics too. If you have a full Pinterest page, you got to get an idea of a repeating color.
That was just one example. But have you seen any other shifts within your industry as far as the way it works?
I mean, people are always, they're always shopping. So like I might show them a light or a sofa that I like, and then they'll just go online and they'll say, this one looks just like it.
So it's similar that the end user has more resources than they did originally.
Yes.
Yeah, it seems like most industries have kind of, especially service industries, have kind of shifted in that fashion. And I think it's good and bad. I always said it's not the worst thing that they're learning this information, but
so in that example, you provided a particular lighting fixture that you like, and maybe they're looking for something, they like it, but it's like that price point, and then look for something similar.
Yes, and then they'll send it to me, and they're like, what do you think? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. That works.
So there's a lot of agents out there who put interior designer or some sort of similar to that in their bio or in their Instagram handle.
You mentioned a certificate.
Yeah, that's what I was bringing up, the certificate. So I mean,
so I did a class, a course, Sheffield Design in New York, and then I was certified, but I didn't do a full degree in interior design. But I always I was always had the eye, always into crafts and flowers, and just always designing something, painting for. So it was always just a passion of mine.
And truthfully, after you have a track record
and been doing it for so long, is what I was talking about with the experience. With the experience, and even when you finish the class, it's the real life experience that kind of teaches you, all of the good and the bad points. You kind of learn as you go along. And your network is super important. Like if we're doing new construction, the builders that you're working with, the mill workers, and you all start to know each other and know what to expect from each job. And I think that's a great thing. I think having a really good group, a good team, no one can do it alone. So you definitely need a team. Even like I say, my vendors, the agents, the real estate agents, just everybody has.
There's a lot of parallels with real estate. We rely very heavily on our vendors, which we've talked about many times.
You have
because we have to pass off the file at some point to the attorney. The home inspector has to do a good job with the inspection. And the lender has to close the deal with the financing. So without them, we can't facilitate the deal.
Like some of my lighting reps, like I will call them and like, this is what I'm looking for. Like what is out there, because I'm having trouble. And they'll send me some ideas, and then and then I put the order through. I have to make sure that they're on it so that they process it right away. So you really do rely on so many other people.
What are some good questions that a potential, a client that might be looking for interior or full home designer, like interview questions? What are these pre-interview, searching
If you're looking
online?
retained
Yeah,
designer,
exactly.
Of course, they always ask, hourly. Do you charge by the hour? Do you charge by the project? Do you charge by the room? They always ask to see some work that we've done before. I would say that 90% of the time that I'm called in, I'm referred by someone
Referral,
who's
yep.
already seen my work. So I feel like that part is
Yeah,
already done
it's much
for
warmer.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
And there's a lot of repeat clients.
Yeah,
I have a lot of repeat-
that's great.
And-
90% referral. That's
yeah,
that's
and I
tremendous.
think the other part of it is you just can't take on too much. Like if you're taking on,
Yeah.
because they really do rely on your specific attention to the details of the project. So that's why you're retained, right?
Yeah.
So
I can imagine your phone is just blown up. I
Yeah.
mean, it's kind of different. We obviously we're in constant communication with our clients, but like they're in the house, they're looking at things. Oh, that's over there. I want this.
Exactly.
I'm thinking I had this
and
idea.
things probably shift and change
Yeah.
as you're doing the project
Yes.
too. So you got to kind of adapt.
Mhm.
If someone were looking to retain your services or speak to you about possibly retaining or a consultation, what would be the best way of doing that? We're going to put the Instagram up for you as well. And
Yeah, they can email us directly or
Okay.
call the showroom.
Okay.
The showroom number is on there. Yeah.
highly recommend. And as soon as they see your work, it speaks for itself.
Thank
But
you.
we really appreciate you coming. Do you have any other questions? Or
No, this is awesome. You guys are
Appreciate
great.
we
Yeah.
appreciate it. Thank you, Denise.
Thanks,
you,
Denise.
Alfredo.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good day.